Alright, what's up, Dragon Brood? I have to say, today we're going to be getting into the Phyrexian Will Be One previews, and I have to say that, honestly, I'm hearing a lot of hype like this set could be the first set in a while to change standards significantly and maybe even other formats, and that seems like a very high praise. But let's get into the cards, because I'm going to look at these for the first time with you, and like always, remember these are initial, I guess, takes on the cards. We haven't seen most of the set, we have no idea, but we're just going to go take a look at stuff and see what we think, because if these are that good, they need to be talked about. Alright, so it looks like some of these are not the best quality, so I may have a little trouble reading this, but I'm going to get through this with you. So the first thing, we're starting out strong with Nissa Ascended Animus, which is already kind of a crazy name, and really sad artwork for Nissa, because she looks tore up. We got 3 colorless, green, double Phyrexian mana, which I think that's the first time we've seen on a Planeswalker, double Phyrexian. It starts with 7, but obviously -2 for each Phyrexian mana you spend, so if you spend 4, it only comes in with 3. Does have a +1 of create a XX green Phyrexian horror creature token, where X is Nissa's loyalty, so that's cool. Then -1, destroy target artifact or enchantment. -7 until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 for each forest you control, wow, and gain trample. So very likely that's going to be like +2 to +5 if you actually use that on, I guess, turn 3. Though you could play it for full value and just do it for 7 on that turn, which is actually pretty sweet. So this is an ultimate that actually matters in more games than not, I'd imagine. Now, the one thing I will say is it is pretty cool that it can protect itself, which I like, but there is an interesting thing that the creature's power and toughness is tied to Nissa. So if Nissa dies, the creature has 0/0 because there's no loyalty to check. So while it is a protective creature, you do unfortunately lose your creature if they kill your Nissa. So that's something to keep in mind. But being able to destroy artifacts and enchantments repeatedly is pretty damn sweet. And like I said, that big overrun effect's awesome. How many decks play this? I don't know. I think it's the type of card that's made specifically for mono green type decks, or even green heavy splashing red or black or something like that. So yeah, I think this will get some play, but I don't think it's going to be completely bananas. But even if you played it for 5 and just did an overrun for 3, that might still end the opponent if you have like 3 or 4 creatures. So this is a tough one. It's pretty cool. I think it's something that will get played, just not a bunch because of the cost. All right, we're starting out strong with another Planeswalker. Actually, this one's a rare, which I see a pattern. Like I just realized, if it holds, it looks like mythic Planeswalkers are the ones that have been completed, and the rare Planeswalkers are probably the ones that aren't completed. But this is Tivar, Jubilant Brawler, I should say. Colorless black-green for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. You can activate abilities on creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. So that's actually pretty cool. +1, you get to untap 1 target creature. So that's pretty cool. You could use the thing, untap it, use it again. And then -2, you mill 3 cards. Then you can return a creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Also interesting, right? Because if you get something back for 2 or less that has an ability, you could minus to get it back into play and then actually use it. So there are some scenarios where maybe you play like an early Llanowar Elf, let's say, or something similar, and it dies. Then on turn 3, you use Tivar, and then you're like, cool, we'll just minus, get one of those back, tap it, use the mana, make something else. I gotta know. This is going to be a fun one to brew with, I think. I don't know where it goes just yet, but the ability is just too sweet not to see play. This is like a promo version, but if this is correct, then it looks like Norn's Annex is back. This is just 3 colorless, 2 Phyrexian mana. Creatures can't attack you or Planeswalkers you control unless they pay Phyrexian or white for each of those creatures. So, yeah. Interesting. Interesting card. We'll see where this ends up for sure. I think we're going to be in a world where we have to play so many enchantment and artifact removals main deck pretty soon. All right, more walkers. This is Vraska, Betrayal Sting. 4 colorless, black, Phyrexian, completed text. Starts with 6 loyalty. You can draw a card, or for 0, you can draw a card, you lose a life, and you proliferate, which is very interesting. So it's still technically like a +1 because you can add a loyalty counter. So it's kind of neat. Proliferate, by the way, if you don't know, lets you increase the counters on everything you have that has a counter on it. Target, or for -2, target creature becomes a treasure artifact with sacrifice treasure, add 1 mana any color, and loses all other types and abilities. So you don't really kill a creature, but you make it a non-creature into a treasure, and then they can sack the treasure. So good way to protect itself. Really cool. And then -9, if target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they gain a number of poison counters equal to the difference. So you get them up to 9 poison, regardless. And then you're trying to do the last point to finish them off. Now, admittedly, I am not a big fan of poison. I think it's very silly to have in the game. However, this is kind of an interesting card. You know, being able to draw, proliferate everything, like even just the proliferation part of it could be beneficial to a lot of different decks. So it'd be interesting to see what decks decide to deploy this card. The Eternal Wanderer, 4 colorless, white, and again, rare, so I think that's what we're going with here. It says no more than 1 creature can attack the Eternal Wanderer each combat. Exile up to 1, which by the way, that alone means this is already going to be hard to kill. But +1, you can exile up to 1 target artifact or creature, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of that player's end step. So this is also a blink spell for either thing, your opponent's stuff or yours, which is kind of cool. 0, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with double strike, so that's pretty awesome. And then -4, for each player, choose a creature that player controls. Each player sacrifices all creatures they control, except for the chosen one. This is pretty strong. Now it is 6 mana, so that's gonna hold it up a little bit. However, we're already playing 5 mana for stuff, so you know what's one more, right? Starts with 5 loyalty, very easy to get to 6. It's a 6 mana pseudo wrath at that, right? You pay 6, everybody goes down to 1 creature. That's pretty big, and you still have a 1 loyalty planeswalker. So that's tough. Now, if they get rid of your creature and then attack into it, fine, but that's a risk worth taking. Being able to make a double striker for 0 is really cool. Yeah, everything around this is awesome. Like, this might be one of the better 6 mana planeswalkers, honestly. This is going to be a nuisance, is what this is going to be. Nahiri, the Unforgiving, is a 1 colorless red-white split mana. Or actually, no, that's red-white split Phyrexian. That's a Boros Phyrexian mana, is what that is. That is interesting. And a white. So you need a red, a white, a colorless, and either or Phyrexian mana. Wow. Okay. Plus, it starts with 5 loyalty, +1 until your next turn. Up to 1 target creature attacks a player each combat if able. So you can force something to attack, or if you're playing in a group game, attack your opponent, which is cool. +1, discard a card, then draw a card. Or 0, exile target creature or equipment card with mana value less than Nahiri's loyalty from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it. That token has haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. I don't know how I feel about it. Okay, so let's say we play it for 3, right? We pay 3 mana and 2 life. We get a 3 loyalty, +1 till end of turn. Something has to attack. Well, it does say has to attack a player and not attack a plane. That's actually important. That's a key word there. It says it has to attack a player, not just attack next turn. So it is a way for Nahiri to protect herself by saying, it's cool you got this 2/2 or 3/3 over there, but it has to attack me, not my planeswalker. So that's actually kind of neat. The discard 1, draw 1, it doesn't feel so planeswalker-y exciting, sadly. And the last one is like, I don't even know how many equipment we're going to have in the graveyard at that point. I mean, I guess it says target creature or equipment, which is kind of important. And there's actually no, let's see. Target creature with mana value less than Nahiri's loyalty. So you can't get a huge creature, but it is like pseudo reanimation. And it's a 0 effect. So that's kind of cool too. So there's probably a home for this type of card. The deck's just going to look a little weird. But it's a very interesting planeswalker, and I kind of like the fact that it is different and weird. Well, looks like they got to Lukka. Lukka Bound to Ruin. 2 colorless, red, green, or Gruul split mana Phyrexian. Starts with 5 loyalty, +1, add a red and a green. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creature. That's actually pretty sweet. Honestly. I mean, the fact that you can play this, then immediately get 2 mana back and still do something with it, like, that's kind of awesome. -1, you make a 3/3 green Phyrexian beast creature token with toxic 1. I think that's the thing for having creating a poison if they deal damage. And then -4, Lukka deals X damage divided as you choose among the number of target creatures or planeswalkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control as you activated this ability. Also key because they can't just kill your biggest creature after you activate, because it's set when you activate it. So this is probably the best overall templated, easy to use, and still very understandably powerful planeswalker of them. Pretty easy to play this for 4. Honestly, even just paying 5 for the whole thing isn't terrible. Getting extra mana, I don't know if you need it necessarily for the decks that might want to play it, but just getting a 3/3 with poison is cool. And just getting to play it and then just like off multiple things, because you can split the stuff. It says as you choose among any number of creatures or planeswalkers. So if you have a big 5-power thing already, you can be like, cool, I'm gonna deal 2 to the planeswalker, 2 to this creature, and 1 to that creature, and get rid of like 3 things. So Lukka's actually pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Honestly, I kind of like this Lukka better than either of his other iterations. So I don't know what that says about me. Oh my gosh, so many planeswalkers. I think there's like 10 or something. Kaito, Dancing Shadow, 2 colorless, blue, green, 3 loyalty. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may return 1 of them to its owner's hand. If you do, you may activate loyalty abilities of Kaito twice this turn rather than once. Interesting. +1, up to 1 target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. You can pay 0 to draw a card, or you can -2 create a 2/2 colorless drone artifact creature with token with Death Touch, and when this creature leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This is a pretty sweet card, right? It's not going to be too hard to cast. When 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you can return it. So it's kind of like a reverse ninja thing, right? You could return the card, and then you can double trigger Kaito, which is pretty cool. Even if it's just to make bodies, that's kind of neat. Yeah, this is a cool card. I don't know if it fits anything particular that exists right now, but I like what it's bringing to the table. It's kind of interesting. Now, Koth, I feel like I did see somewhere along previews earlier or whatever. So Koth, Fire of Resistance, 2 colorless, red, 4 loyalty, +2. Search your library for a basic mountain card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So he's going to make sure you don't miss your land drops. And then -3, and it does say basic mountain, by the way. -3, Koth, Fire of Resistance deals damage to target creature equal to the number of mountains you control. So obviously you want to be as much red as possible. And you gain an emblem for -7, where whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, this emblem deals 4 damage. 4 damage to any target. Yeah, this is cool. This is the red mono red aggro planeswalker, right? This is what they want. This is keep finding your lands, deal damage to things if you need to. Like this, yeah, this is just all around solid. All around solid. Like dominating, no, but I think a lot of those decks could play this as a 2 of maybe and still get pretty good benefit out of it. Even if it just search lands out every turn, like you do that twice, and then you just start hitting with those mountains you got in hand for 4 damage, right? It's pretty cool. I dig it. All right, some non-planeswalkers. Jor Kadeen, first Gold Warden, a red and a white for a 2/2. Legendary creature, human rebel, happens to not be a soldier. Trample. When Jor Kadeen attacks, it gets +X/+X until in the turn where X is the number of equipped creatures you control. Then if Jor Kadeen's power is 4 or greater, you draw a card. You know, this is one where I want to say, like, can do something, but right now it might just be relegated to commander decks that are equipment-based. But we have to wait and see what equipment comes out. Because if there are enough reasonable equipments that the aggro decks want, this card could be kind of spicy, being able to draw cards. Slowbad, Iron Golem, a colorless and a red, 2 colorless and a red for a 3/3. He's Phyrexian Goblin Artificer, so they got to Slowbad. That sucks. Tap, sacrifice an artifact, add amount of red mana equal to the sacrifice artifact's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast artifacts or activate abilities of artifacts. You know, there could be a world where something like Slow Bad works for us to be able to play all these big artifacts we got in Dominaria United. So that's kind of cool. 3/3 bodies, not too small. This is a solid card, and it's a goblin in case you want to play it in different goblin type builds. So yeah, solid card. I don't think it's great, but very solid. Blue Sun's Twilight. X blue blue. Gain control of target creature with mana value X or less. If X is 5 or more, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Okay, so yeah, you just spend a bunch of money and you get to spend a bunch of money. You spend a bunch of mana, though this card could end up being a bunch of money. You spend a bunch of mana, you get to steal a thing, and then if you spend 5 or more on the cost, then you get a copy of that thing. Yeah, that's crazy. This card, even if it's just a one of in some of the control decks, should definitely get played. Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines. 4 colorless and a white for 4/7 vigilance. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities or permanents of your opponent's control to trigger. So 2 things here. 1, this is actually really good. It's a one-sided effect. All your stuff coming into play triggers an additional time. All the stuff your opponent gets don't trigger at all. Very cool. I will say, this is the type of card people worry about for Commander and stuff, and I can tell you, being on the Commander Advisory Group right now, there's no discussion about this card being banned. You have to see it in action to see how ridiculous it is before we decide if it needs to do so. That said, the card's actually really good. It's 5 mana for a 4/7, so it's not the largest body, but it is vigilant, so you can attack and block. And honestly, just doubling your abilities can be very good, and a very solid deck to build around for sure. Phyrexian Obliterator. 4 black mana for a 5/5 Phyrexian Horror Trample. When the source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. Yeah, this card's just annoying. I've never been a fan of it. Wasn't a fan of it in the past when it existed. Not a fan of it now. Wasn't excited to see that become a card on Arena. Previously, I believe for Historic. Does the card get a significant amount of play? Not a ton. It never did. But the game states it creates when it shows up are very terrible. Because it's either... It's basically both sides just not attacking because they want to get the value from blocking with the Obliterator. But you're also not attacking because you don't want to run stuff into Obliterator and lose things. So now there are combos with like using fight spells and different things to cost people cards, and that's definitely going to be a thing. But I'm not really about it. All right, so it looks like everything we have here, as they're going to do their full-scale previews on Tuesday, I think, starting officially on the 17th. So there's going to be a lot of cards coming very quickly over the next week, and I'm going to try to review them all. So if you haven't subscribed, I normally don't ask you to, but make sure you do. Click the notification bell so you don't miss any of these preview videos when they do go up. Otherwise, watch my other stuff, because I have a really sweet video where I played an absurd game against Mono Black, and probably the most epic game I've ever played. Check it out.